Imagine opening your first restaurant, taking the humble potato, some butter, and crafting a mashed potato recipe that puts you on track to earn 31 Michelin stars. That's the most anyone has ever earned in history. Old mate Gordon Ramsay only has 17 and I have none. Chef Joel Robuchon's mashed potato recipe is legendary, and food critics describe eating it as an emotional experience. But do you know what else is an emotional experience? Home cooking. So today we are going to explore what goes into making such a simple dish so legendary, and why I don't think you should even bother making it at home. Well, maybe just once. Huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. More on that later. Let's get stuck in. For anyone who doesn't know who Joel Robuchon is, I cannot emphasize enough how much of a big deal this guy is in French food. He mentored the likes of Gordon Ramsay, Eric Ripert, and thousands of other chefs, and is largely regarded as being the most influential person in modern French cooking. This guy is no joke. The most decorated chef in history, and he's famous for the humble mashed potato. Sadly, we lost Chef Joel Robuchon in 2018. Rest in peace, chef. I hope I do you proud with this one. So, what makes this mashed potato recipe so special? Well, there's a few things, but probably the most important thing, and what we're going to start with, is the type of potato that chef chose. In potato world, we have waxy potatoes all the way down to floury potatoes. This is a Sebago, this is a Kifla, this is a Desiree, sits somewhere in between. Traditionally, in mashed potato or making chips, you use floury potatoes. Chef Joel Robuchon used all waxy potatoes. He used a rata potato, which is a French potato, can't get it here in Australia. Today, we're gonna use this, a Kifla potato, also a very waxy potato. And the reason he used the rata potato or a waxy potato, the flavor has a far more pronounced potato, nutty flavor, and it just comes across in the dish a lot better. And the reason he needed all that extra potato flavor is because of the amount of butter that he puts into it, right? French cooking, very rich, very decadent, especially in like 3 Michelin star restaurants. Butter carries flavor, but it's also incredibly rich. So you need the extra flavor from the waxy potato so you can still taste it through all that delicious rich butter. I've got a kilo of waxy potatoes. Actually, that's a lie. I have 1.175 kilos. We're gonna be very specific here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put these potatoes in unpeeled into cold water. The reason we put them in unpeeled is so that when we're cooking them, they don't absorb as much moisture or as much water. We're trying to keep them as dry as possible, so what they do absorb is butter. So the reason is that we want a kilo of cooked potato at the end. So I've allowed for a couple of 100 grams of potato skin that will end up going in the bin. Onto a high heat, we're gonna season them with salt. We're gonna bring it to a simmer. We're gonna turn it down and just lightly simmer or cook them until they're fully cooked, nice and fork tender. What does fork tender even mean? I don't know. So why do we start them in cold water? Well, as a general rule of thumb, when we're cooking vegetables, anything that grows under the ground, we start in cold water. Anything that grows above the ground, we start in boiling water. The reason being is it's going to cook a lot more evenly. Now you often see people, like my mum, who would often start their mash in boiling water. Yes, it does make it happen faster, but I do think you get a more even potato, or an even cook on your potato when you start it in cold water. So the worst thing mashed potatoes can be is gluggy. A couple of reasons why that happens, and one of them is because you've undercooked your potato. So how do you know when your potato's cooked properly? Well, when you poke it with a little knife, it should fall off again. Falls off again, it's good to go. Potato. So we're gonna drain these potatoes, make sure they're super dry, and then we need to do probably the hardest part of this whole recipe. So we're gonna peel these things. We'll let them steam off for a second, but it's important that we peel them while they're hot. So how do we do that? I'll show you. Promise. I promise. So take a plate, and the reason we want a plate or something is so that we've got something to have the potatoes on while we're peeling them. Cut a little line, and then just start peeling the skin off. So the reason water is the enemy of mashed potato, ironically, considering we just pulled it out of water, is because starch and water make glue. Think of it like how you thicken sauces, like stir fry sauces and stuff, is you use like a potato starch or like a corn starch. When you dissolve that starch in water and then it hits the heat, it thickens up and becomes quite gluggy. No one wants gluggy mashed potato. If I want a gluggy mashed potato, I'd just use potato from a packet. I don't think I've ever actually eaten, well, maybe not consciously eaten potato from a packet.
You reckon you've eaten it from a packet when you were unconscious?
So this is a mouli. These are commonly used in commercial kitchens, does a very similar job to a ricer. Don't need to go out and buy one of these, but this is what Joel did. This is what I do. I push these potatoes through the moulie. So another reason why potatoes go gluggy is because of overworking, or what's known as mechanical stress, which is why you never use a blender for mashed potatoes. Effectively, what we're trying to avoid doing is breaking down the cell wall. If you break down that cell wall, it releases a lot of starch, which kind of turns it into a very gluggy mashed potato. So using something like a moulie like this, or a ricer, or even an old school masher is going to give you better mashed potatoes no matter what recipe you're making. This one, or one of the ones we're making in the second part of this video. So now, 250 mils of milk into a small saucepan. We're just trying to bring that up to temperature. Now often recipes, especially recipes that I've done and you'll see in a future recipe that we do today, we will infuse that milk. In Chef Joel's original recipe, there is no more aromats. We've got another big saucepan here. We're going to add the waxy potatoes to, and it's on a medium-high heat. And what we're trying to do is dry the potatoes out even more. The other reason why using a waxy potato makes sense and works on this recipe is because we're trying to make a silky smooth mash here. We're not trying to make a kind of lumpy home-style mash. This is more like a pomme puree, like a potato puree, as opposed to like a home-style mash. I once made a pomme puree recipe on social media, and I got accosted for it to the point where someone even wrote an article about it in the paper. People were not happy about it, but hey, each to their own. We will do a recipe like that later though. So now I have 250 grams of cold unsalted butter, and we are going to slowly work all that butter into this mass of mashed potato. Important that it's cold because it's going to emulsify into the hot potato easier, but we do have the milk that's hot that we're going to get the desired consistency to later. So why unsalted butter over salted? Well, it means you can control the salt ratio better. If you're already adding butter that has salt in it, you can't control how much salt's in that butter, but if you're adding unsalted butter, you can control it. So once we've got all our butter incorporated, we can make sure that it's all completely melted and gone. We will give it a little season now. So it's similar to the butter, we're gonna slowly add our milk in until we get it to the consistency that we are looking for. So with the 250 grams of milk that we're gonna add here, along with the 250 grams of butter, we have a 2-to-1 ratio of potato to dairy. Crazy. The other benefit of the dairy is that it has a protein in it that helps it trap that starch within the cell wall also, which makes for a less gluggy mashed potato. Now at this point, you can also switch to a whisk if you find that easier. All right, we have one final step because as you can see, it's pretty smooth, but it's not perfect. So this here is a drum sieve, and it's used in baking. It's also used to make purees and Chef Joel Robuchon's mashed potato, very silky. Got a big bowl. I prefer to turn the drum sieve upside down. We place some mash into it and we push it through. If you don't have a drum sieve and you do want to make this recipe, you can just use any normal sieve will work. Just for ergonomics, the drum sieve does make it a bit easier. Whatever you do, make sure you do this while it's still hot. It will not work if you let this mash cool down and then try and push it through a sieve. Mashed potato of your dreams. So now our mash is definitely not hot enough. We go back into a clean pot over a low temperature just to make sure it's nice and hot before we serve. Ooh la la. Look at that, silky, smooth, glossy. It's time to plate it up. Actually, one last taste, make sure it's all good. Wow. Now here's a very specific way that he plates this dish. I haven't practiced it, so I don't know if I'm gonna be any good in it, but let's see. It's rich, it's decadent, and it tastes like potato. It tastes like the best form of potato you've ever tasted. It's absolutely delicious. But you can't eat much of it, it's very rich. And should you make it at home? Maybe for Christmas or Thanksgiving. Let me quickly tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes creating professional websites easy for anyone. Whether you're starting a site for your business or looking for somewhere to host recipes or building something from scratch, Squarespace has templates for every use and category that are professionally designed and fully customizable. Make them your own and stand out online on any device. But if you would rather build it from the ground up, then you can use design intelligence to bring your ideas to life. It uses AI to streamline the whole design process, so you end up with a website that actually suits your needs. Just answer a few questions and it will tailor the site just for you. And with Squarespace payments built in, sales are a breeze. Just a few clicks, you can start taking payments with a wide range of payment methods for your customers. So your business is ready to go in no time. You can even sell access to content like courses, blogs, videos, and memberships. Set a price, pick one time or subscription, and you're away. So head over to squarespace.com/AndyCooks for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code AndyCooks to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now let's get back to that mash. So next up, we're making what I call pub mash. This is literally a dish that I've made tons and tons of over the years, and it's a dish that I still make in my home today, but I only make it when I'm trying to impress. If it's a big occasion, Christmas, someone's birthday, I'll make this style of mash. So what we do is we take a floury potato. So I've got a Sebago potato here today, and we're gonna wash them into cold water to get rid of any dirt on the outside. Then we take an oven tray, we put a generous amount of salt on the bottom, and we place our washed and dried potatoes on top of that salt. What that salt does is draw moisture out of the potato and it stops them from rolling around. We're also gonna prick the potato a few times before we put it on that salt, and then into a 180-degree oven until the potato is fully soft. You should be able to push it with your finger and it should be no give in there at all. It should be soft. You can feel cooked potato underneath. It's gonna take around an hour and 20 minutes. Pull them out. We're gonna let them rest for a little bit so that we can handle them. And while they're resting, we can get our kind of what we're gonna let our potatoes down with infusion ready to go. So in this pot here, I've got 3 bay leaves, 4 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna use about 100 grams of butter, which is still a generous amount of butter, but it's nothing to what Chef Joel's was. So we're gonna add our water. We're gonna add our milk with our aromats and our butter. We're gonna bring that up to a simmer. You can put whatever you want in there. You can go thyme, rosemary, garlic, or you can go really push the boat out and go crazy and put like a studded onion in there. That's not that crazy, let's be real. You could put some kind of spice in there, some kind of ferment would work really well, like a bit of like miso or something like that would work really well. This is kind of the classic garlic, bay leaf, butter, black peppercorns. So now you can use a ricer like this, a moolie like I used before. If you don't have either of these, don't run out and get one. You can just use a straight old school masher as well. That'll work just fine. All we need to do is to pick up the potato, be careful, the salt's often stuck on it. I'm gonna cut it in half, and then we're gonna scoop out all that flesh into our ricer. And right there is the benefit to why we roast these instead of boil them, is that the flesh is as dry as it's gonna get. And the reason we want it dry is because we wanna be able to put as much liquid that's not water into the potato. There's only so much liquid that flesh is going to absorb, and we want that liquid to be flavorful fat. Now, hot tip, do not throw these out. If you've got an air fryer, cut them in half again, spray them with a little bit of olive oil into the air fryer for a couple of 100 degrees, and it'll make the best potato skins. Put that into some sour cream and sweet chili sauce. Delicious. So again, potato choice is important here. We want trying to make like a fluffy mashed potato, so we're going to use a floury or a starchy potato. So just like with Chef Joel's, the enemy of our fluffy pub style, when I say pub, it's kind of a bit, not derogatory, but you know, I'm talking about like nice pub mash. The enemy of it is moisture. So we're gonna put our riced potato into a pan over a medium heat and just dry it out for a couple of minutes. We want nice, fluffy, dry mashed potato. Now we're gonna slowly add our butter and milk, passing it through a sieve to get rid of any of the peppercorns or whatever else you got in there. And we're going to stir that through. At this point, it's a real choose your own journey. And for me, it depends on what I'm having it with. If I'm having bangers and mash, I'll like it about that consistency. If I'm having it with like a stew or something quite wet, I'll probably have it a little bit drier. No need to work it too much. We're just trying to get some of that fat and flavor in there. And you know, the old saying goes, you can always put more in, but you can't take it out, so don't go too aggressive or you might have potato soup, and then the internet will yell at you like they yelled at me. Mean internet. We'll just check our seasoning. No salt. That's it, done. And the only thing that this needs for garnish is just a couple of pieces of butter, just so you get those nice little pools of butter there. There you go. My pub style mashed potato. What does it taste like? Well, it's definitely a lot lighter and fluffier. Still got a good potato flavor. You can definitely taste the other aromats coming through. A little bit of garlic, lovely little bit of bay leaf there, and it's really nicely seasoned. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. And don't get me wrong, Every now and then I do make this at home. But let me show you what I've learned from this one and the last recipe and show you how I make mashed potato at home 90% of the time. So, I like saying so. This is the mash that I make 90% of the time when I'm at home. And I like to use this potato here, which is a Desiree potato. So why do I use a Desiree, which is often called an all-rounder? Well, I think it has that nice balance between a floury potato and a waxy potato. So you still get some nice light fluffy mash, but you also get great potato flavor. I always start by peeling my Desirees. Why? Because I'm at home and I'm trying to make this as efficiently as possible. And I find it an easier process to peel them before we cook them than after we cook them. Now, yes, these will absorb more water because it does have the skin removed, but like I said, this is weeknight cooking. This is not 3 Michelin star cooking. We're gonna peel our potatoes. We're gonna cut them all the same size. That is really important. Don't cut them too small either. It will cook a lot faster the smaller you cut them, but they will take on more water. Obviously, the outside of the surface area of the potato is going to absorb more water than the center. So if you cut them really small, they will become waterlogged. Around this size, I think is good. You know, what's that? Slightly larger than a golf ball, slightly smaller than a tennis ball. Like we talked about earlier, cold water, really important. That means they're going to cook far more evenly. You don't need heaps of it too. Just enough to cover, season reasonably well, high heat, bring it to a boil, cook them until they're fork tender, like we did for Chef Joel Rubichon's kiflers at the start. Our fat. For roughly 1 kilo of potatoes, you're gonna need about 250 mils of liquid, even probably 300 mils of liquid. And you can kind of change your level of fat as you see fit. So if you're thinking, it's Wednesday, Andy, I don't really feel like eating 2,000 calories of mashed potato, then use skim milk and still flavor it with, I like to use rosemary in this mash and garlic. If you're like, yeah, I don't want to eat 2,000 calories, but I do want some flavor, I like to put about a 50 gram nub of butter in there as well. And then same as before, we're gonna bring that up and infuse it at the same time that we're cooking our potatoes. So you're gonna put it on a really low heat, let it come up to temperature, and then if your potatoes still aren't ready after about 10 minutes, just turn the temperature off and let it infuse like tea, and then you can bring it up to temperature once we're incorporating it into our mashed potatoes. How many times can I say potato? Just like the other potatoes, super important that they are fully cooked. If you prick them with a fork or a knife, they should fall straight off, okay? We do not want undercooked potatoes here. Now, we're gonna drain these in a colander in the sink. Now, super important step, put the colander back over the pot and back to the heat. So why we do this is for this. We're trying to steam, we're trying to evaporate any extra moisture that's on the outside of those potatoes. So just let those potatoes sit there in that pot over the top of the colander for a good 5 minutes to try and let as much water evaporate from the outside of those potatoes as humanly possible. Really important at this time to check, make sure we haven't got a pool of water in the bottom of our pot. When potatoes have nicely steamed off, they go back in the pot, and then we get out the old trusty masher. There is nothing wrong with this thing. We're just gonna press them first before we add any liquid. You don't need to go super crazy here as he proceeds to mash the living daylights out of them. But I think it is important to mash your potatoes before you put any liquid in it. And for the reason that water is the enemy, and you see what's happening here? More water is evaporating. The more water we can evaporate from our potato, the more liquid we can have absorb into it. And that liquid is full of the delicious flavors of Flavor Town. Okay, we've got our liquid here. In that goes. You can be fancy and strain it. I'm not gonna bother. We've only got garlic and rosemary in there. If that falls in, no stress. Add a little bit of time, work it in. Try not to kind of work it too much. Get it to the consistency we're looking for. And here we go. I got one final thing that I often like to put in my mash. I'll go grab it. My candle's gone out. Oh no.
You blew it out.
Don't fucking out me like that. So not always, but honestly more often than not, I put a couple of spring onions in my mashed potato. I just love spring onions. Someone commented once that they thought I had shares in a spring onion factory, which I thought was funny because we all know spring onions don't grow in a factory. Finely dice a couple of spring onions, green scallions, green shallots, whatever you call them. Save some of the really green bits to garnish the top. In they go, stir them through, serve them up. The other thing I do is give it a drizzle of olive oil to finish instead of butter. Stunning! Mash comes in all shapes and sizes, and depending on what you're using it for, whether it's for a Wednesday night at home or you're trying to impress a loved one on a special occasion, it's all delicious. There's a couple of points I think you should always remember when you're making any mash. And number one is water is actually the enemy. So do everything you can to get as much water out of those potatoes before you start putting fat and cream and butter into them. Another key thing to remember, don't ever use a blender or a food processor or anything when making mashed potatoes. You're gonna break down the cell walls and you're gonna get gluggy mash. Thanks for watching, legends. Like this video if you've taken anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace. I've got a lot of mash to eat now.